I promise you, what I taught you, I guarantee you, if you do it right, okay, and you bring in probate data and do it the way that I just showed you, click to call, process through, then send the mail, that's a 7-figure business formula. Like it is. There's users in there, like there's Sift users that are that. I am that, right? Anything else on top of that, scaling that, is a matter of your capability to be a business owner, right? To really expand out, okay? Because there's a big difference between like software companies or any other company, right? You have bottlenecks. The first bottleneck's getting to 1 million, then it's 1 million to 3 million, right? Breaking out of 3 million is difficult to get to 5 million. Getting above 5 million is hard, and then getting above 10 million is really hard from there, right? This formula, without a doubt, can get you to 300,000, 500,000 easily, easily. What would limit most people is they'd only wholesale instead of doing flips, and that will drastically reduce their amount of money they make. And so like being able to learn more closing strategies is a big part of that. And then going from 300,000 to 500,000 to 1 million is just a matter of filling the leaky faucets and allocating funds properly. Okay, and then going 1 million above is just your ability to be a leader. That's it.
Hey, what's going on? Tyler Austin here, and I just want to do a quick intro to this video. It's an amazing webinar we did with Foreclosure Daily, but throughout the video you'll realize that we blurred out all of the addresses. It's not because we don't think that you can see them or anything. It's because YouTube doesn't want us to show the first and last name and the address together for personal information purposes, even though it's all public information. We know that. YouTube has its rules. And on that note also, just so you know, like, it doesn't matter if you see the addresses or not. I want you to pay attention to the actual process and just listen to the flow of things, and not so much the addresses, because some people get attached to that, like, well, I can't see the address. How am I supposed to know, like, what I'm supposed to do? Well, the address is irrelevant. You throw your addresses in there, it's the same exact process. It is just the process of creating the flow and tracking things from start to finish, intaking that new data. And I'm not going to spoil it, but just know, pay attention to the process. Don't worry about reading the address and the name of the owners and all that kind of stuff, okay? Because of that, make sure you give it a like, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and check out Foreclosure Daily as well as REI Sift's YouTube channels for more content.
Now I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and give Tyler a chance to get on. But while he's getting on, I want to talk about him for a few moments. I had the chance of meeting Tyler over the phone many years ago, but he's been doing this for 5 years. He fixes, he flips, he wholesales, he does creative finance. Right now, at this moment, he's doing rentals for that residual income. But guys, he's going to teach you guys how to create a probate marketing flow. He's the CEO and founder of REI Sift. It's a sales marketing CRM. Every month I do these webinars. One of the biggest questions we have is, who are you using for a CRM? Who are you using for a CRM? We constantly get that question to every single speaker on here. Now, right in front of you, you have this major investor who invests in all avenues and all platforms out there. And he owns, co-founder, CEO, REI Sift, which is a sales marketing CRM that's going to help you explode your business and help your probate marketing flow. Hi, Tyler. How are you?
Hey, Tangi. Thank you so much. Very awesome. Yeah, 100%. I'm super excited. I always love coming on, spreading the good Sift word, as I like to call it.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you take it from here. And I know you're going to run the whole show, and I'll be back by 7:15 or so if I don't hear from you to open it up for Q&A.
Awesome. Perfect. Sweet. Well, thank you again. Appreciate it. We're going to hop into it. I'm going to basically teach you guys and gals, or as I like to say, ninjas and ninjettes, because that's what our users at REI Sift call themselves, real estate ninjas, basically how to be first to market. But before I get into that, I just kind of want to talk a little bit about what is first to market, right? What does it mean to be first to market inside your marketing channels? And Foreclosure Daily makes this really easy with the data that they provide, especially, I utilize their probate data, and it's convenient to be able to have it to where every single week I can upload brand new, probate records that come in for us. It's about 150 a week. And then over time, if you really are good at marketing, what you get to be able to do is understand how many probates does it actually take to get a correct number, right? How many correct numbers is it taking for me to be able to, you know, get a lead? And how many leads is it taking for me to get a deal? And then ultimately, how many prospects does it take for me to actually convert to make money in my bank account? Is it 13 probates equals 15 grand, or what is it? Because if 1 week, maybe we have a lower amount, maybe there's a slow death rate, right? Which, you know, knock on wood, is a good thing, right? We don't want a high death rate, but maybe there's a slower death rate. And so that means that this week I only get 100 probates. What does that mean for my business? I call this proactive KPIs rather than reactive KPIs. When you understand how much data is it taking for me to actually produce my result? And seeing in the big industry, right, in the guru industry, what this ends up saying is that, like, well, if you just feed the machine 10,000 new prospects every single month, like, you're gonna make money no matter what. That's not wrong. You know, if you brute force something, like, that's why it's called brute forcing, right? You're brute forcing success. Well, that only works for so long, right? Before you get injured or whatever the case is. Like, you brute force, you know, working out, doing something where you're not ready for it yet. You learn that pretty quickly. The sad thing with our businesses is we don't learn that until there's some other exterior force that says, hey, you don't know what you're doing very well. You've been lucky up to this point. Well, luck doesn't work no more. And see, over the next, you know, well, really the last 6 months and moving into the next couple of years, there's a lot of companies that are going to learn that they've been brute forcing success and they don't actually know what they're doing in their business. They don't have control over it. And that's really what we're going to ultimately solve here. So I'm going to teach you guys how to intake data on a weekly basis, monthly basis, whatever frequency it is. First to market's what it's called. And that new data that comes in, we want to learn, we want to know right away, like, well, have we skip traced that data before? Do we already have those records? Maybe from my high equity campaign or whatever other, you know, marketing I'm doing. So maybe I don't have to spend money on that right now. And then what needs skip trace now? Then what's been assigned for marketing and what's the results of that. So I'm going to show you guys a really simple flow. And the last thing that I want to say before we kind of get rock and roll and ask you guys a couple questions is marketing processes or processes in general are not built for the first, second, and third. If you have a 5-step process, the 5th step is the most important. Even though it's the 5th step, it accounts for 75% of the process, because the last step is what really makes that process a process. Otherwise, it would just be steps. It wouldn't be a full process. So it's very important to understand that when I'm teaching you guys this, you got to do the last step. The last step is the most important, it's the most impactful. And in many cases in marketing, that last step for a lot of businesses is sending direct mail. A lot of individuals like to do the cold calling front. If you're doing direct mail as your primary strategy, that's like your first step, right? Then that means that calling them would be your 5th step. Or maybe researching their siblings would be the 5th step. It really just depends on your business. I'm going to teach you a few principles. I'm going to be using REI Sift to teach this. However, if you don't have REI Sift, you can utilize whatever you want. If you have a way to do this elsewhere, I don't think you will. Maybe you have a really, really, really good Visual Basics and you can do this in Excel. Then of course you could try to do that. But before I get going, I like to be pretty interactive. So what I want to know from y'all right now is I want to know who here right now is actively marketing first. Perfect. Okay, sorry. Okay, perfect. So if you guys can, I guess inside of the Q&A, go ahead and just let me know, are you currently marketing in your business right now or not? Just put yes or no. So yes, Fernando, yes. Anita, Greg is yes. Bass is yes. Postcards and letters, yes from Gus. Jeremy says yes. Okay, so everybody's actually marketing. Great. Don't stop doing that. What I see really often right now is it's like a
You're frozen.
is
Tyler,
that,
Tyler,
you know,
you're frozen. You're
people
frozen. You're frozen. We're having some technical. Oh, I see you now. I got you now.
I'm good.
Yep,
Okay.
you're good now. You were frozen and your voice was, we didn't hear anything. It was all muffled.
Oh man.
Hear you now.
Okay, fantastic. If that happens again, y'all just, you know, unmute or whatever and let me know in the Q&A. So a lot of people, they pull out, right? They have their lines in the water and they pull out because of whatever they see on the market. They just say, hey, this isn't for me, right? Really important to understand that the most important part of business is to never pull your line out of the water. You can scale back a little bit if you want, but never let the reason for your business to stop is because, like, you don't have the money for marketing, for example. Okay, that means you're never in the business for the right reason to begin with. Make sure if you don't have money for marketing right now, then go deliver food. You can make $500 a month very easily in this world right now by bringing food to people like me who are really lazy and don't go out to grocery shop, right? And there's a ton of those individuals. So please never let that be your excuse. So I want to lead with that because moving into uncertain times, there's two things that will save you in business. Number one, never giving up and always making sure that you're keeping your line in the water. And number two, knowledge, right? And I just solved both of those for you, or I'm going to solve the second one for you now. Okay. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to share my screen, and this is technical. Okay. But don't be afraid of the technical. Like if you're like, oh, I'm not like a tech person. First of all, take that stuff out of your language, right? Because you'll never be someone who understands anything if you always say that you don't understand something. Okay, so just remove it from your vocabulary, and maybe you'll start actually allowing abundance into your life. Okay, and so you can rewatch this recording. It's going to be on YouTube. It'll be on YouTube forever. So you can go back through and rewatch this if you want to, write things down and stuff like that. Okay, cool. Sweet. So let's share a screen and let's get into it. Hopefully our internet doesn't get angry with us after we share screen. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen now, and this is REI Sift. And I'm going to real quick show you guys around REI Sift in general, just some quick, overview, but then I'm going to show you what we're going to be doing. So very simply, we have a dashboard at REI Sift, kind of shows the total amount of records in this account. It's only 31,000 records. This month I had 5 new vacant records. About 1% of my data is vacant. About 23% of my data is, has phone numbers. We have SIP line, which essentially, I'm not going to show all my leads under lead management, but there you have a lead management flow. I have a return mail flow, any acquisitions flows. It's a Kanban board where we can do some really cool stuff. I'm not going to really get into it all right now. Return mail is a really important one for you to have though. I haven't processed my return mail this month or really since I created this account. But at least I haven't added them to this board, but I have a bunch of return mail. I'll cover that towards the end of this. It'll be one of the last things we talk about. You got to have a flow for return mail. Very simply, you have a list page, kind of, what kind of properties you have in here is multifamily list. I got a bunch of probates. We're about to upload about 500 more probates, and then some single family residence data. I have a statuses page. You can create custom statuses inside of REI Sift, as well as, a bunch of tags, stuff like that. Activity log tracks everything that's going on in your account, what data you've uploaded, when you've downloaded, if you sent it over to a predictive dialer, if you sent direct mail internal to REI Sift, stuff like that. Okay. We have sequences that allow you to do some automations, which I'll kind of cover a little bit today, but not very much. I don't want you guys to think too much about all the nitty gritty stuff. Okay. All those things we teach, and we're really hands-on here at REI Sift to make sure you understand those types of things. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to build out on our records page here. This is, all of our data. You can see I have a bunch of statuses called prospecting. What you need to know is prospecting means that we've called through, texted, and left a voicemail at least 3 days in a row, whether that be 2 times in one day or whatever the scenario is. It's 3 days in a row. They've been called, text, voicemail. Okay, so if there was a mobile number, that means there was 3 touches in one day, 9 touches minimum over 72 hours. Okay, if you don't reach them after that period of time, a lot of times that means that you're not going to reach that phone number via calling. Okay, so that's the first thing to understand. The next thing to understand about REI Sift 2 is that this color yellow here means that I've skip traced it, but I didn't get any phone numbers back, at least in this one provider, which in this case was with Sift. If I were to export and skip trace in a second provider, maybe I get phone numbers as well. Okay. You'll also notice that I have a status of not interested. And this is a really big pitfall in most businesses is you might get a hold of a probate lead and they say, I'm not interested in selling right now. Okay, cool. And they don't track anything with that. See, most people, they go from prospecting data to the skip tracing provider, to call tools or direct mail, to a CRM or like an inbound call, right? That's the flow. In between there's just so many what I call leaky faucets where you're losing money consistently and you don't even know what's happening. Not interested is a huge one of those. If they're not interested, you just blow them off. Like, okay, cool, great, thank you, bye. And you don't track that correct number. You don't track that they weren't interested. Instead, in like 2 months from now, you send them a postcard again, or you call that phone number again in the future on a different list. For example, like this person's on 2 different lists. They're not interested. They're on single family residence and probate. So maybe I just, did it against probate and they called in from a probate, direct mail piece. But then I cold called them through here, but I already had their phone number, from when they called inbound from probate. So why would I call them again? Instead, I track that as a correct number and I'm not going to worry about it no more. Okay. So data is king. Data is business, right? At the end of the day, the only reason why, what company was it? Sears actually made money when they went out of business because they sold their database. They had millions of people who bought tools from them. They sold that database. I think it was to Cobalt, if I'm not mistaken, for millions and millions. And so the only reason why they made money is because of the data. You see, I know that out of the 1,500, multifamily or the 1,500 probate, and some of those are multifamily probate because these, some of these multifamilies are 10 or less units owned by a single individual. And we could check that really quick out of curiosity. We might as well. Let's just check that. Let's look at multifamily and probate. Let's see how many fit that criteria. Maybe there's none. I don't know. There's 2. But one's not interested that I reached and one's prospecting. Let's see if any incomplete. Okay, so it's not very many in that scenario, which rightfully so. Actually, she mentioned that before we started that I probably wouldn't have very many multifamily that were probate. But in the scenario here, right, this one's prospect means I didn't reach them, but at least this one, hey, that's one phone number out of 1,500 multifamily. I'm in the business right now of just trying to get every single multifamily number. I know that so far right now I have 82, I think, or it's 82 or 250. It's one or the other. We could check them later if we have time. But that means that right now, if I continue pace, if this business, if this exact company, this account has only been active for like 60 days or so. So if it's only been active for around 60 days, and I already have around 5% of all the correct of all the data that's multifamily, maybe after about a year or so, I'll have around 50%. Maybe I'll have about 50% or so, or 40% of all of the correct numbers to all the multifamily. So what does that mean? That means next year, my marketing budget just went down a ton because now all I need to do is create a process around following up with my not interested. So I already have the correct number. Okay. This becomes even more powerful when you're doing a first market strategy. So let's get into that. So I'm going to click on my filter records here. I'm going to show you guys a little flow. Okay, you can see under my filter presets, I have some folders here. And these are really just folders that contain presets to where I don't have to worry about rebuilding the filter every single time. And these presets are designed in such a way to where they're including or excluding information that doesn't fit a certain criteria. And I'm going to start with skip trace flow. So if you look at probate skip trace, I'm looking for my probate list. I'm not going to go into detail on all of these because it's not relevant for you right now. But I'm suppressing out anything that doesn't have a status. So I don't want anything that's not interested. I don't want anything that's already a lead. I don't want to see any of that stuff. I just want to say, hey, has it been marketed to yet? Does it contain any other status? And does it contain phone numbers? And has it been skip traced? If the answer to that is no, then I want to skip trace them. And right now there's no properties found. That's okay. That's actually good. That means my team's doing their job. However, I'm about to upload this list here, which I got by going to the clerk, website or whatever, and exporting my data from Foreclosure Daily. Okay. And then uploading it here. And I just did a couple changes and I just want to show you those changes really quick. Is I created this notes column and I merged essentially the PR information and the attorney information. So very simply, I use a tool called Power Tools. I selected all of this attorney information here. I created a column called ATT info. I selected all those columns and I used the merge functionality to create one, all that information in one. I did the same thing with the PR info, and then I took those two and I merged them into another, and I'm calling it notes. Reason why is because I just like to put that information underneath the notes on the record inside of Sift. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to do file download as a CSV. And we're just going to go to over to REI Sift. We're just going to upload this list really quick. And what you're going to realize is some of this data might already be in here. Maybe it's under the single family residence list that I already skip traced. So maybe I don't have to worry about it. But if it contains this criteria and it's never been skip traced, it's going to pop up here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip trace it right inside of REI Sift here. And then I'm going to go underneath of my probate flow, which you can see right here is my number 2. My first priority is multifamily. My second priority is probate. So, and you can see I have like a little flow here set up. It's 7 steps or 6 steps really, because the first 2 are actually just separating Florida versus Texas probates. And you can see I have probate RTM, which stands for ready to market. And so what is ready to market? Well, ready to market is data that is never been marketed to yet, but it has phone numbers ready to market. If you're doing direct mail as your first strategy, then this would be the stuff that's never been direct mailed yet. So it's ready to be sent for marketing. Then you'll see my next main step is called stage for marketing. What stage for marketing for me is it is the data that I have sent and assigned inside of REI Sift, which I'll show you. I've assigned it to a team member, a virtual assistant, to start calling those records. Okay, so they're calling those records and marketing right inside of REI Sift using one of our call integrations like AirCall or smartphone right inside of REI Sift, and they're click to calling and they're working that data, texting and leaving voicemails. And we do that for up to 3 times. Really 4. You have the initial call, the first attempt, second attempt, and third attempt. It's really actually 1 initial and then 3 follow-up days. Okay, so it's really 12, not 9 attempts. And then I have a probate exhausted, and that is the status prospecting. Okay, and so I click on that one. You'll see this. It's probate. The status is prospecting, which my team changes the status to prospecting after they finish a certain amount of attempts. And if I apply this right now, you'll see that I have 727 records so far that are probate records that I have called through, and I haven't reached them via the phone, which is very, 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 very common. Why? Well, they're dead, right? Like you not to be insensitive about it, but they're not going to be picking up the phone anytime soon. Which means that I either need to get better, right? Like meaning I need to know another way to market. Or I need to be one of those types of individuals that just assumes that they don't want to sell their house. I just let this sit here and I never do anything with it, which is what most people do. And the people that do that, I say, what, do you think they just came back alive and, or alive and they're just living in the property now and everything's fine and dandy? Like, no, that didn't happen. So you got to do something. The quick and easiest way is just to select these and at least start sending direct mail if you haven't started doing this already. Some people, like I think I've seen Jaime Lascano's in the participants, and I know specifically we did a podcast with him, and he actually brings in probates on a daily, if I'm not mistaken, and he actually ends up doing it where he sends mail right away, and then he's calling right away as well. And that's smart because in the 72-hour period, the direct mail would have already reached them. And so you can kind of double your efforts there. Really is preference. I mail on the back side. Some people can mail on the front side. Okay. But I have another filter here. That's basically the last filter that just tells me, hey, probate cold call attempt 3 is finished. Send direct mail. That's really what that means to me. Okay. Click apply. And as of right now, there's the 727. This filter is just looking for, is there any direct mail attempts on the record? And we actually increment those direct mail attempts here. So I can select these. Let's say I can either send these right inside of REI Sift and it will automatically increment that, or maybe I use another direct mail provider that Foreclosure Daily actually recommends. Maybe use one of their providers. And so you just, when you export it to send direct mail, you just update the attempts as direct mail sent so that you can track that as an attempt. And because it now has that attempt, it's no longer going to fit this criteria. So you can see the power of now moving the data from never been skip traced to ready to market to attempted to call to now, sent direct mail. So let's go ahead and start by sending or uploading this list. So we're going to choose upload file. I'm going to add data. I'm going to choose to upload a list that's existing in REI Sift. I got the list from, I call clerk data on mine. When was today. And then I put that it does not have phone numbers and that it is part of the probate list. I don't know what that NIC list is. I need to delete that. I'm going to click next. I'm going to click next. We do what we call a smart upload. So we actually tag it here with some automatic, we call it our 4 W's of data management. Where's the data been? Where's the data from? Where's it been? Where is it going? And when did it happen? If you track those 4 things on any activity that ever happens to your data, then you can never re-skip trace the same data twice and spend. We have users that have never used this before and they start using us to manage their data and their marketing flows, and they find out when they upload all of their data that they've skip traced the same list 9 times. You know, we're talking $20,000+ worth of skip tracing just of the same records twice. The same thing happens even if you skip trace one and then you skip trace another, at different providers, that you get the same phone number from both providers. And sometimes it's identical, and users can see that by using us, because you can tag phone numbers with the data provider and then filter by those two different providers and see, oh, wow, all of these are the same. And I just spent that money twice. And so it's a huge, it's really big. It's money saved is money earned, right? We as investors, we know this when it comes to taxes. We're like, oh, I'm gonna buy an apartment building so I can save taxes this year, so I don't have to pay as much in taxes. So we understand that if we spend money, we're gonna save, you know, when it comes to our taxes. But we don't understand that if we just do good business practices and save money every single day, that doesn't add up to being a compound effect. When it really does. Okay, so we can see that property street, property city, property state, property zip, that's auto mapped for us here. We can see my notes auto mapped. I'm looking on the left-hand side. I see a random state one there. I don't know what that's from there, but I'm just looking on the left-hand side. I'm going to go ahead and map. I think bedrooms and bath is on some of this data. So I'm going to map bedrooms and baths. Make sure we add that in there nice and easy like. Parcel ID, I'm going to search parcel. We allow that on upload as well. So I'm just going to drag and put that over. Year built, we actually have as well. We call it year. So I'm just going to drag that over. So these are things I can filter by then. Single family is the property use. So we call that structure type. I don't know why the county and some of these locations call it property use, simply because, or sometimes we consider property use, property type, but there's actually like land use, and then there's what structures on it. So that's just some bit of information just for you guys in general. You might have land that's use is multi-family, but you might have a single family residence on it. And so there's make sure when you're dealing with data that you're thinking about that. You want to understand the difference there between land use, which we have in here as well, if I'm not mistaken. Land zoning is what we call it. And you could really narrow in, and that's one of my niches, right? I'm focusing on right now 10 or less unit properties like duplexes and quads and stuff like that have a property size that can account to have more than what it's being used for now, so we can build some extra. So it's a really good strategy to kind of find value add. Okay, so now I'm going to scroll down here and I'm just going to look to see parcel ID, and then we see the owner's information, mailing address. One of the biggest questions I get all the time is like, well, do I want to market to the deceased or do I want to market to the personal representative? My answer to that is always skip trace the deceased, because if you skip trace the deceased, most, I would say 90%, if not more, of skip tracing providers, they skip trace the mailing address pretty much only. They don't even care about the first and last name. Most skip trace the mailing address, and then they bring in the phone numbers associated with and the owners of that, whether it be 1, 2, or 3, or 4, and then the closest associates to them. So if there's a PR, let's say that PR is a spouse, or that PR, which most of the time, if there's a spouse, there's no PR needed. It doesn't even go through probate, but sometimes it does. But let's just say it's their kid, their son or daughter. That phone number in most situations will end up, if you skip trace the owner, you'll end up probably getting the phone number to the daughter as well. Most of the time, there is a huge percentage of data that will have that. So I always say, call the deceased first, and then if you don't reach anybody, call the PR and start digging in a little bit more. And the reason why is because the best data is pre-probate, really, before probate, because you're getting ahead of the people who are watching the county. And so I prefer to work pre-probate. They don't have PRs yet. Most of your data is going to be pre-probate. And so setting the system up like that, it means that I can be just quicker to understand who I'm not reaching. And then I can step backwards and I can start doing that. And if you send direct mail in the very beginning, then you're kind of killing two things with one stone. You're kind of getting ahead of it. Now, you do get PR addresses sometimes. Okay. And some of you might even get PR phone numbers potentially. And so if that's the case, we're going to upload that phone number into REI Sift, but we're going to tag it with PR. And I'll show you guys an example later. I literally did this. Actually, I went live in our Facebook group and I showed somebody like how to do something. And I just said, hey, they were just complaining. They're like, oh, like they're overcomplicating it. They're allowing something simple become super complicated when it comes to like how to manage PRs or not. And I said, listen, just call the deceased. And if you don't get the deceased, know that you don't get the deceased, and then find the PR's name, skip trace them, get the phone number, and then add them to that record and call them. And I did that, and I tried 3 records, and then I got a hold of the third, and they weren't interested in selling, but I just proved that, like, hey, in the time that you were thinking about how to do this, like, I just followed what I was already saying, and I got a hold of somebody that didn't want to sell, but now I have the correct number, right? And that's all that matters, because now I can follow up, because that person might not want to sell now, but they might end up having to pay their taxes in a year and sell the house here in Fort Walton Beach, right? So anyway, we don't need to really map anything else. We already got everything else mapped that we need. So I'm just going to click, I'm not going to map this email, the attorney's email to the email. We got everything else we need. We got the name, we got the address, we got some structure type stuff, all good. Click next. I'm going to review all that information, and I'm going to click finish upload. And this is where the magic starts happening. This is where my system's already set up. My process is already done. The SOP is already defined. All I know is every Wednesday, upload the probate data. And then my team knows after you upload the probate data, click on filter records, click on load, click on skip trace flow. And this is anytime we upload any data, right? Click on probate, need skipped, click apply. And then it's going to start uploading into here. But first we need to watch our upload and see. It actually finished already. So let's see the breakdown. We have 482 new records, 72 were updated. So that could have been that we already had them as probates, or maybe they were single family residences. We can check that. And there was 13 duplicates, which could have been just internal inside the document or inside here. So let's go back and let's try to filter again and see. We're going to go to skip trace flow, probate, nothing on there, no statuses, numbers, no, apply. Why are we not showing anything? Oh no, why am I incomplete? Okay, so I got 8 incomplete. I haven't populated the rest of them yet, but we'll use the incomplete as an example here. Well, no, I don't really want to do that. Let me just refresh. We should pop up right underneath of that one. Sometimes there can be a little bit of a delay, but not usually. Probate numbers, no, unless everything already had phone numbers, but that's probably not going to be the case. There we go. Yeah, just need to populate. So it started populating now. So we got 79 records right now. Okay, and so if we have 79, 245, 245, 263, I'm just going to let this finish populating really quick. While that's happening, I'm going to show you guys some task stuff, okay? Because I want to skip trace all these at once. I don't want to have to do it twice. So let's let that finish. And the reason why, just so you guys understand, is there's like we upload stuff on the database on the back end, it uploads really fast, but then the front end has to receive that information and pull it all in. And depending on how much is going on in the database, it can take longer or shorter. Okay. So for now, I want to show you guys some task stuff. Okay. I want to show you some presets. This is just some tidbit of information for you guys to take and apply to your business however you want. So this is our niche follow-up attempts. You can see that I have 1 through 3. So this is how we handle tracking, like, okay, this person needs a second call, a first call, or a third call. I'll show you guys that later. Lead management, call new lead, tasks, acquisitions, make offer for me and Armani. But then we have an offer, follow-up 1, follow-up 2, follow-up 3, follow-up 4. So after you make an offer on somebody, if they don't accept it right away, I'm going to show you guys a trick with, we have an offers feature. I'm going to show you guys to know and be able to create some filters to say, hey, this stuff we've made an offer to, it's pending acceptance. So therefore that means that I need to be following up with them. You should follow up at least for a week. If they don't take it after a week, they're probably not going to sell you that house right now. Then you have a standard follow-up. And this is one of the ones I wanted to explain when it comes to lead management. When something becomes a new lead from your team, whether it be an inbound call, it be from cold calling, the new lead that comes in, the next challenge is re-engaging that lead. It's say, hey, they said they're interested in selling, and now a lead manager's got to call them, or an acquisitions, whatever, needs to call them and engage them to qualify. So you have a pre-qualified lead, but then you have a qualified lead. Okay, and there's a transition that has to happen there. So your lead manager needs to try and engage that lead. And I go out for 72 hours. If they don't answer after 72 hours, we automatically throw them in a cold follow-up, which is out for basically a year. And it starts at 45 days. And so you can see attempt 1, 8 attempts, 45, 90, 135, 180, 225, and so on. And so this is cold follow-up. And then the same thing happens with warm, and then they go to a hot. So if someone says hot, and this is 15 attempts over, or it's 9 attempts over 15 days, but then they don't answer, then we just move them to warm, and then we move them to cold. So it just literally just goes up, 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 up. And we teach this in our data dollars challenge, but like I wanted to show it here just so you guys see, like, you know, the task kind of management. And I can just go to my activity or my tasks here, manager's view, and I can look at, you know, my task for, let's say, like Joshua, and I can see all of his tasks. Like right now he has, how many overdue does he have? He has quite a few overdue right now, which usually happens bleeding out of the weekend, and then so on. I can continue filtering. Okay, let's go back to our records page and filter here and go to skip trace flow, probate, apply. Oops, apply. All right, 524. So let's just select all these now, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to send to skip trace, and of course you can export and skip trace as well. But again, the 4 W's to data management. I want to say that I skip trace this at REI Sift, so I just have a tag that's REI Sift skipped. Okay, so it cost me $62 for 524 records, skip trace records. I'm going to show you another really cool leaky faucet in just a second once this stuff finishes. It should be pretty quick. Skip tracing happens relatively fast. But my internet is a little so right now, apparently, so we'll see. Okay, so that's going to start skip tracing. What's going to happen is if I go to my ready to market for Florida under my probate flow now, ready to market, what you're going to see is that I have a few records in here from 82 days ago. They were skip traced, but it's going to start filling up with more. Okay, which is going to be super awesome. Let's close this one out, and let's close these tabs as well. So it's going to start filling up with new results. Okay, here in just a second. We'll go to our activity, go to skip trace, and we'll just look. It's processing right now. We can look at the breakdown of the processing. We can see that something really cool is, notice that we have 2 duplicate owners. What that means is that so far, there was one owner that owned multiple properties. And if there's an owner that owns duplicate properties, we only skip trace them once and we consider a duplicate. So then we refund the rest. So we're like I think we're the only skip tracing provider that actually looks for duplicate owners and make sure that you can save money on skip tracing. And the reason why we do that and why we can do that is because of our owner records page, where you can actually see how many properties somebody owns inside of your account and filter by criteria around the owner. So if I click on this Dennis guy here, I can look and you can see we've tried to reach out to Dennis. His phone numbers, none of them answered. So he owns, you know, however many properties. Actually, it says right here, 16 properties. If I click on one of these, I'm guessing it's either, you know, these ones are single family residences. One of them might be probate, who knows? Okay, and so the owner's page is really, really valuable because you can do the same effort of marketing to all of these properties, or you can go to your owner's page and filter by, you know, or even just start here and just literally start calling these and just clicking next owner and tracking call attempts based off of the owner. And I can work through 1,000 properties in a matter of 20 minutes instead of, you know, calling 1,000 different properties, right? And so data is really, really powerful. And I can lock up one contract that has, you know, 13 properties, right? Or 12 or 5, right? In 2019, we ended up having a year where we did like 1.3 million in revenue on $30,000 of marketing spend, 30 or 33,000 in marketing spend, right? And it was, I'm trying to think back, it was 53 or 42 properties, but only 13 contracts. It was 13 contracts. I forget the total amount of properties. But it was because we were focusing on people that owned between 3 and 5 properties. But one of those or 2 of those properties were in distress, right? They were either probate or they were tax delinquent. Tax delinquent was our main niche there, tax delinquency or code enforcement. And we were able to pull in, you know, more properties from less effort, but it's the same amount of marketing dollars. And in fact, cheaper because we have a system and flow behind it. Let's go ahead and check to see if our skip trace is now empty here. So it's still working through those, still working on populating them, at least. So let's just go over here and go to probate, ready to market. Okay, so we have 104 here right now. So let's just work off of these. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do something very simple here. I'm going to filter by one of my team members. So Joshua is the one who calls our probate data. And so I'm just going to go to him and I'm going to click on his Joshua ready for initial call. I'm going to click apply. And I'm just going to see how many records he has on him right now. So he has 22 records on him right now. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give him, and another way that I could do that, by the way, is I can click on probate and just look at my stage for marketing. And I can see right now there's no probate stage for marketing. So those 22 properties that he does have are probably like multifamily records, right? Not probate. So we're going to give him some probate here. We need to give him some juicy probates. So we're going to go to our ready to market for Florida. And all I'm going to do is select, let's give him 25 of these, click enter, and then go to manage, assign to user. And then I'm going to assign them to Joshua and click save and assign. And so now that's going to disappear from here and it's going to move it over to Joshua. Likewise, I could just select all of these if I'm doing a bulk dialer and then send to like call tools. Maybe I'm doing call tools and I just want to send all phone numbers without a status. We're going to talk about phone numbers and statuses in just a minute. Okay, and I can send these over there and start a cold call campaign. And then actually, as I'm calling with the integration, the direct integration with call tools, if I get a new lead, it would update the status as new lead, the phone number as correct number, and all that good stuff. Okay, but now let's look at Joshua's. And so what happened is Joshua now just has records, and Joshua needs to click in these, and he needs to call those new records. Okay, so he has 47 records now. And so I just want to kind of paint the picture here. You have the person that's managing the marketing. Okay, this is the sales and marketing CRM, right? So you have the person who's managing the marketing. They're the ones that can see all these folders, right? They can see all this stuff. Joshua can only see his one folder because he's assigned that one folder. He can see only that folder. Okay, so when Joshua comes up, what happens is as a marketing manager, I'm coming in and I'm saying, okay, upload new data, and I just use a task for that, right? We have recurring tasks. So I have a task that says, hey, weekly, pull the probate data. So on a weekly basis, upload that probate data. My next step is to come in here and I skip trace that probate data. My next step is to come into ready to market and assign those some of those records to Joshua. But before I do, I would just check, does anything already staged for Joshua? Because if he's already got a bunch of records staged, then I probably don't want to give him more. I usually don't want to give him any more than like 50 to 100 records at a time. So I like to keep it at like weekly chunks. But maybe I would be sending it to a bulk dialer instead, which is totally fine. We have a whole bulk flow that we teach as well. But this is niche sequential marketing is what we're teaching now. Okay. And so it's very aggressive, and it's for that first to market. As I'm bringing in data on a daily or weekly basis, I want to be using a first to market strategy. The people that are doing bulk strategy on probate, it's because they're only pulling it like every quarter or every 6 months or every year. And by then, someone like myself, I would have already gathered all the correct numbers and already sent mail and already did the whole process, right? And so there's that, right? So just keep that in mind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign him those records, and now he's going to have it. And so now let me explain what he's doing, like what's happening on the marketer side, the prospecting side. So Joshua's waking up in the morning and he's doing his simple flow, right? His flow is, I want to see, do I have any tasks due today? I'm gonna click apply. And right now he has none due today. So that's great. He completed all of his tasks. Then what he's gonna do is he's gonna look, and this is just a filter looking for tasks assigned to Joshua that are due today. Then what he's gonna do is he's gonna look at, do I have any tasks that are overdue, right? Which I guess I don't have a preset for him for that, but he's gonna click on overdue and click apply. And right now he has 57. So he needs to be working through those overdue tasks. But he's on leave right now. That's actually why they're overdue. I just remembered that. He's got a wedding or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. And so he's got some overdue tasks that are coming up. And then after he does his task due today, and after he makes sure he doesn't have any overdue tasks, never do overdue tasks before due tasks, because you just become more overdue. Okay, always do your task due today, then go back, finish any overdue tasks, and then all he does is clicks on needs his first call, right? So ready for initial call. He clicks on that, he clicks apply, and he's got 47 records, and he just clicks on the first one. And what he does is he calls the first number, and I'm going to show the air call integration. So it's click to call. If I were to dial this right now, it would start dialing. If they end up saying, hey, you got the wrong phone number, then I'm just going to go wrong number. I'm going to update the status of the phone number as wrong. That would get also tracked on the activity log. Okay. And then I'm going to dial the next number. Let's just say it's dead. Just go beep, beep, beep. Okay, cool. It's dead. Let's say I pick up this next one picks up and let's just say it's a cousin. Like, oh yeah, I know Paul. I don't think he's interested in selling that property though, or whatever. So it's a correct number, but it's a cousin. So I would want to put like cousin as a tag, right? For example, okay. But I would want to follow up, and I would still want to try to reach the homeowner if he's not going to give me that information. Okay, so that's one example. But let's just say this phone number ends up just not answering. So they say no answer. Okay, great. What am I going to do now? Well, I don't want to give up on this person because this phone number didn't answer, and I want to give this person a chance to answer. So it's a mobile number, so I would send it a text message. If it was a voicemail, I'll be leaving a voicemail. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here. I'm just going to add a tag for initial niche call, meaning that it was done. So adding that tag, meaning it was done. You can also use call attempts for this and just toggle a call attempt. And then I'm going to create a task through a preset to follow up attempt 1. Okay. And then so now tomorrow, what's going to happen is when he clicks on his task due today, this is going to pop up and he's going to complete his follow-up attempt. So what's going to happen is he's going to call the number that's, well, this is supposed to be no answer. He's going to call the no answer. He's going to try and call them. If they don't answer, again, great. He's going to complete this task. He's going to add the tag for initial, oops, that was another initial call. We don't want that one. For niche call attempt 1 done. And then he's going to add the task for the next one. Boom. And he's going to do that same thing. He's going to do that 3 times. After the 3rd time, he's going to switch the status to prospecting. And right now I have a sequence set up to where if I switch this to prospecting right now, what's going to happen is it's going to remove him as the assignee. So watch. Prospecting. If I refresh my screen, I think I do, if I'm not mistaken. And it removed him as the assignee, right? Likewise, if I switch the status to new lead, what's going to happen is it's going to actually it's going to assign it to me, or it's going to create the task for me. It doesn't assign it to me. It just creates the task for me, and then it also moved it and added it to our Sift line board. Okay, right there. And I don't remember what record that was. I will have to find that record then. Okay. So that's the flow, and that just happens on a weekly basis. It's fairly straightforward. Into new data, it says unstable. Am I back? Said unstable for a second. I'm gonna assume I'm good. Okay. All right, sweet. So basically I intake that new data, and this could be any niche, right? Right now, a lot of our users, I have a user out of Panama City. I don't know if he's in here or not. His name's Peyton. He's freaking awesome. And he does this process flawlessly with like evictions, and I think he focuses on probates as well, and quite a few other lists. But like what's really cool about evictions data is every eviction comes with a phone number in most counties, because the person has to file the eviction with a phone number to contact them. And so like you have to post your phone number on the eviction. So it's really cool that you kind of have a guaranteed phone number. It's really awesome. You don't even have to spend any money on skip tracing. It's glorious. And so we create that flow, and I have it with my main niches. I have whatever I need to skip trace. My multifamily is the same exact process. My probate's the same process. And this is all just for this niche. If I want to go hop down in Tampa and say, you know what, I'm going to take over Tampa, or Spring Hill or wherever Foreclosure Daily is. I think their headquarters is somewhere down there. And I'm going to show them that I can like crush it with probates down there. All I have to do is get the probate data from them and then literally upload it. That's it. Everything else is already in place. It just literally happens, right? And if you're doing bulk marketing, then it's the same exact stuff. It's just all you're doing is filtering by the stuff that you sent. And when you send it, like we have stuff that we're doing, we do bulk marketing for a specific zip code 75080, which is in Dallas, or I think it's Richardson, Texas. And so right now I don't have anything under cold call 1 attempt, but I can look really quick. Maybe it's under a 3rd attempt. I don't know. Okay, so it's under the third attempt right now. So 4,208 records are under the third attempt. What's really cool is if I look at any of these records, some of these have wrong numbers. I can click in here now and I could search by the phone status. Wrong number. Okay, apply. And so 210 of those 4,000 have a wrong number. Well, if we open them up, what's cool about this is on its third attempt. If I look at my activity log, when this was sent to call tools, only, so November 30th. So, so this one was updated wrong. And then when we send it to call tools, let me just show you, it'd be easier if I show you. When we send it to call tools, when we select those records, we don't send the wrong numbers or the dead numbers or the correct numbers or the DNC numbers. We just send the ones that don't have an active status on it. So I might send 4,000 records, but if, or 4,000, total records, which might have 3 to 5 phone numbers per. But if I go to my activity and look at my predicted dialer sends, each time it becomes less and less phone numbers, depending on if we're if we're intaking new data or not. But that's because we're slowly munching through all those numbers to remove all those wrong numbers. And if it gets to the point where there's records that are on 5 attempts, look, if it doesn't have a status, what does that mean? That means we never reached them, because if we reached them, it would be not interested, right? Or it would be DNC, or it would be a lead. So after calling through for 5 attempts and they still don't have a status, that means that those records need to go to another marketing strategy, or they need to be skip traced in a second provider. And I could create a system for that. Like I can add a tag. Well, where they skip trace in REI Sift, but not somewhere else, great. Then I'm going to skip trace in somewhere else, re-upload it and put it through another 5 attempts. And then I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to move it to direct mail. Right. And so systems and business is built off processes, and it's all based around the data inside of the flow. Right. And so you want to build a balance between first to market strategy, where you're intaking data on a weekly basis, minimum weekly basis, daily, preferably minimum weekly. The worst case scenario is monthly. And as we bring that data in, I skip trace it. I assign it to somebody to call. They work through that data. And then after they call through it, if they don't reach them, it goes to sends direct mail. And then in the meantime, I have maybe a larger zip code that I'm, in the bulk dialer, just creating opportunity, creating leads. But what I know is for certain, without any question of a doubt, like if I go to bed and I'm laying down and I'm stressed out because my business is this, that, and the other, I know that for certain I've done the exact process. There couldn't be an issue, right? Because guess what? I'm doing even the things no one else does, is like the one-time skip no numbers. Watch this. Right now, there's 27 records from that skip tracing that we did that I didn't get phone numbers back from. Guess what I'm going to do right now? I'm going to come in here and I'm going to send it mail right now. I'm just going to come in here. I'm going to choose ballpoint marketing. I'm going to put happy acquisitions as the name. We actually have a whole direct mail postcard suite being added. Again, use whatever provider you want. I'd love for you guys to use us. Foreclosure Daily has an awesome provider as well. I've used their provider many times, but use whatever you want. But if I send this mail, just always make sure you update the attempts. Just track the attempts. That way, at least you're doing that. So I'm gonna add my tracking number and I'm gonna add my website. I'm gonna add my direct mail week, 49. So I sent it on week 49. I always do that. It's just my little thing, so I know what was sent on what week. Next, it's gonna cost me $40, handwritten, a little expensive. Like she was saying earlier, it can be. It's a $1.30 or something like that. In this one, they're little handwritten ones. They look like this. They're actual envelopes you open up and whatnot. You click send. Now, boom, it's been done. Those got sent, and now so they're no longer going to be under here. And so as I skip trace and as I get skip trace, I'm going to click in here. I'm going to make sure that I send mail to anything in here. That'll disappear from here once it processes. And now I'm going to move on, and I just create recurring tasks to remind me. Check the skip trace one time, no numbers weekly. If there's nothing in there, okay. If there is records in there, handle them. Okay. And the same thing happens, in a lot of other, scenarios, but I'm not going to get into every other nuance, right? But here's the really cool thing. Let me show you guys something awesome. So I'm going to filter really quick by my multifamily list. All right. And as of right now, I have 1,046 records that come up under my clean. Incomplete data, 525. What is incomplete data? It's trusts, companies, LLCs, no first name at all. Really important to work that data, but you want to work your clean data. You don't want to send mail to these. You want to find the owners and all that good stuff, okay? So click on clean data. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm just going to do marketing attempts. So we're going to do that the tag contains at least the initial call. And I don't know why there's 2 initial calls in here. I can't tell if one's spelled differently than the other. I don't know. I'll click apply. None of them contain both. Well, let's try one first. That might be the wrong one. I don't know which one's which. Man. Okay, let's just do it another way. Do multifamily, and then I'll just do phone status, right? So what I was saying earlier, phone status contains correct. So as of right now, I have 132 correct numbers for those. And you can look at the status. Most of them are going to be not interested. So let's see how many of those are not interested. Property status. Not interested. 67 of them. So 50% of them are not interested. All right. And so if 50% of them are not interested, then that means if I'm skip tracing and not tracking this stuff, then that's 50% more money I'm spending, right? For that specific little bubble, right? We don't want to do that, right? So just to kind of show you, when you track it, you can do some cool things. You can really see some really cool KPIs. And we're actually working on KPI dashboard right now, our feature for Q1, where you're going to be able to associate records with campaigns, and it'll track all the wrong numbers you got in that campaign, all the correct numbers. And let's just say, for example, I went to one of these not interested and I call him, and it turns out he's interested in selling and it's a new lead now. I make an offer. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say I offered I don't know, 60,000, and he accepted that offer for 70,000. So submit. Hoping you guys can hear me right now. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, my internet's being silly right now. I don't know what's going on. Okay, there we go. So you can see that it says Tyler made the offer at 60,000 and it was accepted for 70,000. But what's really cool is once you get a deal under contract, you can literally go down from the very beginning. When did I upload this? I uploaded it on the September 3rd. Okay, when did I start call it for the very first time? I called it for the very first time. I skip traced it on the 6th, so it took me a little bit. Tyler called the owner on the 6th, so I start calling. So it took me 3 days to call him. Okay, it took me 3 days to start calling him. There's me calling him again. Call back later. Turned out there was a PR's husband tag, and then they weren't interested. I create a task, so I can do a reverse engineering. Oh, I made an offer now. Oh, you know what's really funny? This is the one I was talking about earlier that I went on with that person. It's a triplex here in Fort Walton Beach, but they live out of Georgia, and they weren't interested in selling, but I got in contact with the homeowner. I really want it. Okay, anyway, so you can see, I can see all the phone numbers. I can see the tags that I added with it, right? Skip trace and REI Sift, it's the PR's husband, and that's the correct number, right? And so anyway, right now they're interested in selling, but they've accepted it. Accepted means that they've accepted my offer, but they ain't signed a contract yet. All right, so I'm going to update that offer and say, hey, we went under contract at 70,000 and save. That means they signed. And now it transitions to a deal. So now I can update this deal and I can choose a deal type. Let's say I'm going to wholesale this, and I think I'm going to make 15,000 from it, and I can save that. And so now I see my projected assignment fee is 15,000. I can update that and say, oh, I had to clean it. For $500, I know if I clean it and add that fee, I'm probably going to be able to get more. Okay. And so I update it. It actually goes under assign, and I assign it for 17.5, save. And now the deal closes, and I do deal finalize. And I think my account has okay. Yeah. So then I have deal profit at 17,000. What's really cool is, I need to update that as deal fell through because I don't want that app to be on there. But now it shows one offer made. And so what's really cool is depending on the status of all of that, offer being made, we have filters for offers. And so, something that you'd want to do is you'd want to have something for like anything that's like not interested. Maybe the property status is like not interested. And I'm kind of going freelance right here as just to show you guys a few examples. But what if you have something that's not interested, but you actually have an offer on it, right? Maybe it actually has an offer on it. So say they're not interested, but it has an offer on it. So if you at the end of the week on a Friday afternoon, you're like, man, we really got to turn something out here, right? We'll call the people you previously made an offer on and they rejected it, right? And make an offer, or filter by your warm leads, right? And if they haven't had an offer, or your hot leads, maybe the status is hot. I use a hot status for that. You can also use property temperature that we have on the record itself. And they have an offer, which I don't think we have any of those. If they do, but it's not, but the status isn't under contract. So maybe offer status is not under contract, right? If it's not under contract, then call them and make another offer and try to piece something together. A lot of people just are sitting on gold and they don't even know it. And so, the objective in business is to go from 32,000 records to 32,000 correct phone numbers, right? So that, you can just follow up game and, then every not interested, it takes 100 not interested follow-ups to get, someone converted. That's the end game, right? That's why Facebook ads the way they are, right? Facebook ads are initial touch, they come in, okay, retargeting, okay, they went to my web page, retargeting, and now after I paid for retargeting for a while, they actually purchased something for me. Every other marketing company, online especially, does a flow like this, but it's dead in real estate. And that's because real estate is still stuck in the 60s or 70s or wherever else. The only reason why it feels like the technology is advanced in real estate is simply because it's accessible. From a tactic standpoint, though, from looking legitimately, it hasn't. You know what has changed? Influencers. Influencers will sit and they will tell you a dream and they'll tell you everything how it should be when it comes to like the bulk stuff, and like just send a bunch of marketing, spend the money every single month on 10,000 records, skip trace them every, those 10,000 records every single month. Listen, if I gave you every single address in the nation, right? Guess what? You, at some point, your business would still end up failing, right? It would still, at the end of the day, if you don't have a system in place to bring in new data and understand it, and then understand like, okay, cool, I'm going to go ahead and I have no problem. I have no problem with people that do bulk marketing. Do bulk marketing all day. Just track the wrong numbers and do it really efficiently. Okay, because then at least I know who I can follow up with and I know who I'm not reaching. I can kind of do a lateral move, right? But at the end of the day, you got to have a system in place. And if you don't, you'll either come back in a year from now and be like, oh yeah, you're right. Or you'll go out of business. It's one or the other, right? Or you'll come up with something else, or someone will steal what we're doing, which has already tried to be done, and try to make something similar. And it's just not gonna, they're not gonna keep up though, right? Because the fundamentals of data management are what they are, and it takes a long time to get it where we've got it now. And now it's just a matter of just putting fuel to the fire, KPI management. We have the smartphone integration launching and a bunch of other stuff. But from the first to market perspective, you really only need 2 folders, right? Or really only one even. Skip trace, whatever the niches you're focusing on, bring that stuff in, and you could literally build a 7-figure business off of just that. I promise you, what I taught you, I guarantee you, if you do it right, okay, and you bring in probate data and do it the way that I just showed you, click to call, process through, then send the mail, that's a 7-figure business formula. Like it is. There's users and there's stiff users that are that. I am that, right? Anything else on top of that, scaling that, is a matter of your capability to be a business owner, right? To really expand out, okay? Because there's a big difference between like software companies or any other company, right? You have bottlenecks. The first bottleneck's getting to 1 million, then it's 1 million to 3 million. right? Breaking out of 3 million is difficult to get to 5 million. Getting above 5 million is hard, and then getting above 10 million is really hard from there, right? This formula, without a doubt, can get you to 300,000, 500,000 easily, without like easily. What would limit most people is they'd only wholesale instead of doing flips, and that will drastically reduce their amount of money they make. And so like being able to learn more closing strategies is a big part of that. And then going from 3 to 500,000 to $1 million is just a matter of filling the leaky faucets and allocating funds properly. Okay, and then going $1 million above is just your ability to be a leader. That's it. Okay, and it only takes 3 to 5 people. It doesn't take a huge team either.